Hi, everybody. It's Lynn McTaggart. Welcome back. Very excited because we're going to do a lovely Facebook again today, and we're going to um, we're going to talk about all of the news that we see all the time. And the news we see all the time is about people behaving badly. And all we hear all the time is what people don't do and how they are violent and all of the things that we think are part of the human condition. And the one thing they don't talk about is how good people are and how willing they are to help. And I talked to you last week about that fellow over here in the UK called Patrick Hutchinson, who went to a Black Lives Matter event. He went to a protest basically just to make sure that the younger people didn't get into trouble. He's a Black man himself. He's a very big personal trainer. He's a grandfather. And so he went to just make sure the youngins didn't get into any trouble. And when there was this big scuffle with far right groups, he jumped in without thinking and saved a guy who was on the ground from the far right groups who had come to protest against Black Lives Matter. And he scooped him up in a fireman's pose and he got him out of harm's way before he got crushed or beaten to death. Now, people have been applauding him as some kind of amazing hero, somebody that is really, really unusual. And we think that isn't the norm. And we're fearful too, as we come out of lockdown, that it's going to be every man or woman for himself, that there aren't going to be enough jobs, there's not going to be enough food, there's not going to be enough everything for all of us. So I thought I would talk a little bit about the so-called bystander effect and the idea that a hero is somebody really rare. The whole reason that we think they're rare has a lot to do with something that happened in 1964 in Brooklyn. A woman called Kitty Genovese was attacked brutally and raped and murdered and stabbed repeatedly. And the press reported that more than a dozen people, maybe 20 people, had heard her constant screams and nobody did anything. And so they believed, and it's now been a classic psychological study, that people who are in a group, in a crowd, won't go to help. And they call it a diffusion of responsibility. The people won't help because they know somebody else is there and somebody else is going to help. But they found out later, they put that to a test. And I mean, that has been the idea that has permeated psychology departments, that this whole idea that when we're in a crowd, nobody feels compelled to help. And that there is such a thing as a bystander effect, as opposed to good Samaritans, and they point back to the famous parable of all of the people who rushed past except a good Samaritan to help a beggar on the street. There was even a really interesting study where they took, I think it was some psychology students, and they had a beggar by the side of the road, and he was stopping them as they were rushing to a lecture about the Good Samaritan, and nobody stopped and helped. Now, this whole idea, the bystander effect, has been put to the test recently. And first of all, there was a really interesting study on the New York subway. And they chose a section of the subway where there was going to be many, many minutes, I think more than 5 minutes, where there were no stops. So people would have to witness something going on there and wouldn't be able to get out. I think it was about 7 minutes. And so what this psychology department did was to put a couple of actors in place. And one acted like a drunk on one train, and another acted like like a disabled person with a cane who had fallen. So they had both of them fall down on different trains, while other people were there who were part of the study and taking notes and watching what was going on. And they found that with the guy with the cane, people helped about 90% of the time. Even with the drunk, and a lot of people, you know, somebody's reeking of alcohol, whatever, might step away, he also got helped. I think it was close to 60% of the time. And interestingly enough, it didn't matter what race the person was. Black people got help just as much as white people. People just jumped out to help. But an even more interesting study was conducted, a big one, by Lancaster University in Britain, and also connected to several other universities and locations. And they decided to do studies of 3 cities: Lancaster, Amsterdam in the Netherlands, and Cape Town in South Africa. And for this, they got hold of surveillance footage of actual true live events, of people getting attacked and stabbed and all kinds of things like that. And they found something extraordinary. People helped 90% of the time. One or more people would jump in and help 90% of the time, no matter where it was. And some of those areas, like Cape Town, were more violent than others, had a higher rate of violence. And didn't matter who it was, didn't matter what it was. People jumped in and helped. And we saw this. There were, in the UK last week, there was someone who was identified as a probable terrorist who attacked 3 men who were sitting out in a park having a picnic and enjoying themselves. And the so-called terrorist pulled out a giant knife and started stabbing these 3 guys. Now, other people on the other side of the park heard the scuffle, and one of those guys got up and ran over, and his friend came with him. They didn't know what they were going to find. They saw the people on the ground bleeding, and they just ran over to try to help them and save them. The 3 men died, sadly. But the point was, people dive into even dangerous things without thinking. People dive into burning planes, as they did once in Toronto when a plane crashed, even though it was near a highway, even though it was after 2001 when the plane could have crashed because of a terrorist activity. People dive into icy waters, as some did when a plane had problems in the UK, in the US, in New York, and landed in the Hudson River in the middle of the winter, and people dove in to save others. And that is the thing that happens with people. People jump into burning buildings without thinking. It's hardwired in us to help and to give. And the point is, the real point here is, what we have to do when we walk out of lockdown is to create a new type of society where people are encouraged to help, where it isn't about dog eat dog and I win, you lose, where we all can help each other. And that way we all survive, because the impulse in all of us is there. The impulse in all of us, all of those people out there who have received love, it's in there automatically. They come to people's aid without thinking. So what I want to do on our intention today is to do an intention that will help us trust about this sense of helping. As we step out of lockdown and into this new world, it's just happening here in the UK. We've just had new announcements yesterday. It's happening all over America and in many parts around the world. So we're walking into a new world where there are different rules, but that doesn't mean we can't tap in to the highest impulses among ourselves. So I want you to get comfortable now for this intention. We're going to intend today and trust that we're all going to help each other thrive in new ways when we step out into this new world after lockdown. So let's take a deep breath, a deep inhale, a deep exhale, a deep inhale, a deep exhale, a deep inhale, a deep exhale. Feel the connection with everyone on this live webcast. Feel the energy running through your arms and your hands. Feel that sense of gratitude you have that humans have been hardwired to help, not to stand by and do nothing. Hold on to those images with this intention. Our intention today is to trust that we are all going to help each other thrive in new ways when we step out into this new world after lockdown. So as you hold this intention and bring it down to your heart and send it out to the universe, I want you to imagine what that helping new world looks like, where people do not feel they have to be bystanders, but are upstanders, are the people who will reach out and help. The people we've seen all along during this entire lockdown experience. We've seen people be upstanders and get out there and help their neighbors and get out there and help the vulnerable and the forgotten and the people who are really suffering and the ill. So let's just hold on to this intention as we imagine this new world and how you yourself are going to help. Let's hold on to it, feeling our connection together. Holding that intention. Our intention today is to trust that we are all going to help each other thrive in new ways when we step out into this new world after lockdown. and see ways that you can be a hero too. How are you going to be a hero after lockdown? Visualize that as you're holding this intention. Just keep holding it. Feel the energy pulsing through your hands, your arms, the power of the psychic internet. Just imagine that new world and see what it looks like. Feel what it is like. Can you feel that energy? So let's hold it for one more minute. As you allow yourself to visualize what that new world looks like. Okay, everybody, let go of that intention. Trust the process. And in your own time, come back onto this webcast. And let go of those intentions. write down in the chat here underneath my video anything you want to express about what you saw, the visualizations you held, the ideas you saw and predicted for what this new world is going to be like, and also your role in it. What are you going to do to contribute to a new world? I want to just tell you, if you think it's kind of hard to be a hero, in that study I mentioned between Lancaster and Amsterdam and Cape Town, they found that women even stepped forward, putting their hands in front of attackers to stop them. They found that people actually pulled attackers off of would-be victims. As they said, as a guy called Zeno Franco said from the Medical College of Wisconsin, the everyday heroism effect, or the instinct to act on behalf of others, is very powerful. There's that great song by David Bowie, "We Can Be Heroes," but that's not quite strictly true. The truth is, we already are heroes. Each and every one of us has that heroism inside of them. We can be heroes. We are heroes. So write down on the chat below how you're going to be a hero in the coming week. Thank you very much. Wonderful to be with you again, and I'll see you next week. Same time, same place. Thank you.